You're making one right decision today. You're listening to Handcuffs and Sage.
Three badass moms bringing you all the true crime and paranormal your heart desires.
I'm Red.
I'm Timo.
I'm Dre. And don't let your kids listen. Seriously, just don't.
Hey, it's Handcuffs and Sage. Woo!
Woo!
This is Red.
Hey guys, this is Timo.
And this is Dre.
Oh, and it's our Down the Rabbit Hole episode. Oh my goodness.
Yes, this one's going to be a fun one.
All right, so we're still missing Rock. Rock maybe is in time travel mode right now. Maybe that's what he's doing.
Yeah.
After looking into what we're talking about, maybe. How about that?
Yeah, maybe.
Yep.
We'll ask.
Especially,
He'll
what
tell us.
was this like? I heard like a little snippet on the news about the government releasing some information too. So now I'm like, oh my God. What is real?
Me at home going, I told you so. Drinking my wine.
Right.
I told you all. I told you years ago.
The men in black came and got him, and now he's under investigation.
So it came out in the news that they're going to release information, every so often, when they want.
Right.
Give it to me all at the same time.
Right. About objects from, how do they put it? Like a non-earthly vehicle.
Right.
Mm-hmm,
Tesla did not make the vehicle. It was made on Earth. Not man-made, not from Earth.
Right.
So,
and this is this is deriving from the Tic Tac videos, right? They call the Tic Tac. That they finally came out and said, the little thing that they said it was shaped like a Tic Tac, that whole
oh my gosh, I thought you were saying TikTok wrong. And I'm like, should I correct her? Is that rude?
No.
Yes, it looks like a little Tic Tac. You're right. And it like kind of, right. And then the guy who I love from Blink 182 was like, hey, y'all, I'm all about UFOs and aliens, and I'm actually going to get this stuff released. And then he did it, which was nuts.
It's happening.
And that's the video.
Bananas. I know, it's happening.
So I'm super excited.
You guys, what if it's really, really happening?
Fuck. I just want to meet an alien.
Could you imagine?
I think it is.
2020. Why not? Fuck it. Come on. Let's have fucking aliens now,
Aliens. Yeah. By this point, I'm like, whatever comes, I'm just going to fucking deal with it, I guess.
Right. Vampires and werewolves. I'm waiting for
Godzilla.
A real story.
Vampires really scare me, guys. Like, if that was a true story, if that happens, that really scares me. Sometimes I go out late at night to walk my dog. Not walk my dogs.
Whoa.
But to go take my dogs to potty before bedtime. And like I stand there and I'm like, what if a vampire's gonna get me?
What are we, 12? What grown-ass woman says, is a vampire gonna get me? I would think, I hope a man doesn't grab me. But Timo thinks about vampires.
Yeah,
so.
yeah.
Slight difference.
If a vampire came to get me while I was outside walking my dog, I would really hope that it was like Brad Pitt.
Oh, you're like, I can stay a while.
Yeah,
this work.
Brad Pitt as Lestat. Oh yeah, okay. He was finer than fine.
Oh, it was stupid fine. It was just like, this is wrong. This is God's plan. Okay, so we're talking about the Philadelphia experiment. Did you guys know about the Philadelphia experiment?
I did not.
Not until you mentioned it. I was like, what the heck is this? And then I was like, what the fuck is this?
Rock. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Okay, so I think this is a really interesting story because there are times where you do a deep dive and you go, you know what? Once we start connecting dots here and people and what happened during this time, could this have really happened? Right? Okay, so I'm going to start off by talking about Carl Allen. And Carl Allen had clear view of a ship. It was called the SS Eldridge, right? And they were doing top secret experiments for a year on the Eldridge. On October 28th, 1943, all of a sudden a dense green fog, whoa, and all over the ship,
Crazy.
right? And then all
nuts.
of a sudden it started like flashing, and then it was going in and out of existence, right? Disappearing, reappearing. There was a flash of light around the ship, right? It disappeared, it reappeared, and there were bodies fused to the ship.
Alive.
Bananas.
Yeah.
Alive.
What?
So that's how we're going to start off this crazy train here that we're going to go. There's so much to this, and there's so many angles. So I wanted to talk about this one theory, but then kind of end it with a right?
Oh,
so
okay.
lots of fun things to talk about.
Cool.
So in 1956, Morris Jessup was in Florida. He's, a 56-year-old guy. He likes to write books about UFOs and alien technology. That I would read his books. That sounds super cool.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, Jessup, get it. He had a master's degree in astronomy. This really smart guy. And he came out with his first book in 1955. It was called The Case for the UFO. And he had like a small cult following because of this book, right? UFO people, we stick together. Okay?
Right.
So in 1915, Einstein was working on unified field theory. What's unified field theory? Are you guys ready?
Tell me.
I'm not a nerd like this, so saying words this big hurts my head sometimes, but we're going to get through it. So Einstein's theory believed that one force controlled all four forces. And at the time, scientists believed that there were two forces really that controlled everything. Einstein said that there were four: gravity, electromagnetism, I got through it, strong interaction, and weak interaction. But then all four could come together and do what? Time travel. What?
Right on.
What?
Right on.
Einstein, if you say so, I believe you. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. It could be used for space-time continuum. This was just a theory. He was never able to prove it. Okay? It's a theory.
Okay.
January 13th, 1956, Jessup got a letter from someone named Carlos Allende. Okay? He was just minding his own business, and he gets this letter. Okay? And in the letter, Allende says there needs to be a further look into unified theory, and it was necessary to do this, the theory that Einstein had been working on. Okay, so if someone sent me that letter, I'd be like, what do these words mean? And then I would throw it away, right? So October 1943, Allende was a sailor on a ship, the SS Andrew Firthosef.
Drink.
Okay, I'm gonna drink.
I'm drinking too. I have a caddy Maggie.
I'm drinking water. I'm pretty sure I've got like heat exhaustion, heat stroke, some shit going on.
You worked your ass off today.
I absolutely did.
Bananas.
So he worked on a ship that was right next to the SS Eldridge. They tested the limits of unified theory, right, on the ship, the Eldridge, and he saw it happen. Okay, so he would see it disappear, and he said that the water would keep it shape, which is kind of a trippy idea. Like, it's in the water, but the ship is invisible. Okay,
crazy.
He said that it reappeared and that there were screaming from the men on the ship, that a body had been melted into the structure, that the men that survived went insane, lost their minds. Okay, it's awful. There are multiple stories about the sailors that were on this ship after it happened. One of the stories was that a guy walked through a wall in front of his family and was never seen again.
Bananas.
Crazy.
Bananas.
Yeah.
Insane. That some of them later on spontaneously combusted. Now, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with spontaneous combustion.
Right.
Because there was like some show or something that had like a woman do it. Like it was the 80s, right? So that was happening, right? And I thought like if I got really mad, it would actually happen.
Oh my God.
Kids, right?
Yeah.
I thought the same.
I was very concerned about combusting, like in actual life. Another story is that two guys were in a bar fight and they both disappeared out of nowhere, which is lots of fun. So then he says that there's a newspaper article to back this up, but really is very vague about where to find this newspaper article, right? He said it's between like these 3 years, only during these certain seasons, and only on certain pages. Check it out, it's there. It was very like, what are you talking about, Alinde? You cray. Okay, so Rear Admiral Ransom Bennett, which that's a badass name, Ransom. Dig it. He was the chief of research for the Navy. There was misspelled words, right, in this letter he received. And he said, I need evidence. You can't just send me this letter, this weird letter with all these misspellings and all this craziness without evidence, right?
Right.
He gets a response from Alinde, right? There is no concrete evidence, right? There's no evidence. The Navy will never admit that they did this, okay? And 2 men are alive that know the truth, right? That's what we have. That's the information we have. So Dr. Russell was a writer, a chemist, and a friend of Einstein, which that's the coolest one of all. And they wrote a manifesto together, The Dangers of Nuclear Weapons, right? The second man that knows the existence of what happened is Dr. Reno, an Army employee and mathematician. He devised calculations for bomb drops, okay? And they headed the experiments, right? But our friend Jessup in Florida, our writer, he said he couldn't find any connection or any record of any of this. So Jessup is still like, I don't have any actual facts or evidence. This guy that wrote me this letter is Looney Tunes. Okay, that's basically what Jessup is left thinking. But then in 1957, Jessup gets a call from the Department of Naval Research, okay? I have never gotten a call from Naval Research, so that must have been kind of cool. So the Navy said that they had gotten a book in a package, and it had Carlos Allende's handwriting on it, right? The book in the package was Jessup's book that he had written with that small cult following, right?
Right.
So there were 3 different shades of ink with notes inside this book with a conversation seemingly between 3 separate people.
Right.
A guy named Jimmy, right? And then a Mr. A and a Mr. B, right?
And it's all like in the margins and like all the, like someone took a lot of time to do this, right?
Yes. It looks crazy. It looks crazy. So then it alludes to that I'm so sorry, that Mr. A and Mr. B are aliens.
Right. Love it.
Stick with me here, people. The aliens wrote notes in the book. Okay.
Uh-huh.
And they talk about two different species of aliens, LMs and SMs, right? So the Navy gets this package with Jessup's book with this crazy writing in it. And they're like, what the who? And they try to track down where the package came from. And it was like a false address, right? It was bogus.
Right. And then
So,
didn't like the other side say Happy Easter?
yes.
Like bananas, like what the fuck? Yeah.
What's happening here? So all they could go on is, whose book is this? Who is the author of this book? It's Jessup. So they ring him up, right? What do you know about all of this craziness? So Jessup's like, I don't know what's going on, but he took a look at it and he said, I'm pretty sure I recognize this misspelling because I got this crazy ass letter with the exact same misspellings. So he thinks Mr. A, the guy leaving the notes, Mr. A is Allende, right? But they couldn't find Allende. They don't know where homie's at, okay? So Jessup ends up meeting with this Navy research people, and he ends up doing it like 3 times in these meetings. What did they discuss? I don't know. Who the fuck knows, right? So the Navy takes the book to a place called the Varro Manufacturing, and they make copies. They make 127 copies, and they call it the Varro edition. And they gave it to people at the Navy research place, right? We need to figure out what the hell is going on in these writings, basically. And Jessup ended up with 3 copies, okay? So winter 1958, Jessup goes to a friend's house in New York, Ivan T. Sanderson, and he saw, hey, Ivan, what's up? Long time no see. Let's hook up. You bring some friends over. I got a super top secret thing I'm going to share with you. Don't tell anyone, right?
Yeah,
Ivan's
that works.
like, cool beans. I got some friends coming over, right? So he gives his copies to the men at the meeting at his friend's house, but says, you know, be careful with them. And he was obviously concerned that something might happen to him, right? He was acting a little nervous, okay? So by March 1959, Jessup's wife had left him, which is super sad. He had lost a book deal. That really messed him up. And so he wasn't in a good place, right?
No,
he was
right.
not doing well. And Jessup actually canceled a doctor's appointment and is quoted as saying he couldn't make it because he was on to something big. Huge, right?
Yeah.
It's huge. Okay. So April 20th, 1959, this guard in Florida is about to lock up. It's late at night, and he sees like this white station wagon. Do you want to talk about what he found on the white station wagon? Because this makes me really sad.
Well, he finds it. It was it in a park is where he found it?
Uh-huh.
And there's a hose that goes from his tailpipe and it goes up into the window. It's wrapped like in a towel, and he opens it up and finds Jessup barely breathing, but and then he ends up dying. So he, I guess he committed suicide, but I don't know.
So just so happened at the time that this guard is pulling him out of the car that a doctor is passing by. And weird, right? And the doctor was able to pass by and he pronounced him dead. This doctor's name was Dr. Harry Reid. He walked by, he said, he did, and then he peaced out. Where did this doctor come from? It was very weird.
Yeah, what?
Very odd. So they said his acquaintances weren't like shocked that he had committed suicide, but the people that really knew him said, look, this guy would not have done this without leaving a note.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always a big thing for me. Like we've talked about this before. A lot of people leave a note, and he's a writer. He's an author, right?
Right.
I don't know. So there was an investigation. So Sergeant Ted Obachang looked into the case, and he said that it actually looked like a very professional job. Like things were like airtight on the car, and it just didn't look right to him, right? It looked like somebody did it to kill him, right?
Right.
But it was still ruled a suicide. So then we hear about Commander X, which is like the most badass motherfucking name ever. Commander X, a former military official, wants to look more into this suicide and called the medical examiner's office for the full autopsy report. But oh wait, whoopsie daisy, we didn't do an autopsy. You know,
crazy.
It was lunchtime. We got to talking. We forgot. Okay. The medical examiner says to Commander X, have you ever seen hallucinogenics used to cover up a UFO investigation?
What?
Commander X said, what now? What'd you say?
What?
He said it was like the weirdest shit he had ever heard. Like, what are you even talking about?
Right.
So, we've talked about MK Ultra, right?
Right.
We've done that little investigation. So yes, they have used hallucinogenics to cover up things before. So that was very interesting. So in 1979, Allende did an interview with these guys, these UFO researchers. They sound kind of cool, Moore and Berlitz. And Allende said, you know, this stuff back when like happened, it was crazy, it's real. And so Moore and Berlitz looked into it, and in the notes they saw that Allende had put his like sailor ID, I guess. They tracked down that ID, and they tracked it down to Carlos Allen, his real name, and that he was telling the truth, that he was actually there when this crazy experiment happened and when things went awry, right? So that was insane. So Moore and Berlitz is like, yo, let's write a book. Yeah, let's write a book about the Philadelphia experiment, right? What happened to these men? What really happened that day, right? So in 1982, the year of my birth.
Why is every story the year of your birth?
Like, I swear every time.
I know. What's going on here?
You know, just like really crazy, awesome things happened that year. You know what I mean?
It's so crazy.
It's crazy. A screenplay was put out by Thorn EMI. And they ended up having to like shoot it in Utah. They wanted to do it in Long Island because of the Phoenix Project. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Didn't work out, ended up in Utah. Well, they were doing this movie and they got a warning from the US government saying, don't you fucking put this movie out, right?
Dang. That's great.
They did what I do with my bills. I pretend I didn't see it and they threw it away. Right? So they put the movie out and it made $1.8 million, which was really good for like this low budget movie. So they were like, yeah, legit, cool beans. So then they got a second letter from the government and they said, you need to pull that film right now. They don't want it out. And Thorn EMI was like, do you have a court order? And they said, hell yeah, we do. Shit. So they weren't able to play it for 2 years. It was banned for 2 years. And then later VHS came out for it. Did you guys watch the movie?
Now, which one is this one?
The Philadelphia Experiment.
Is this the one that, okay, but the one that came out in 1984, right? Then it went mainstream 1984, right?
Yeah, it's like so 80s. It's fantastic.
It's like this. Yes. Let's talk about it like towards the end of everything else, because I want to kind of like do a deep dive into that movie because it was delicious. Absolutely delicious.
I wish I watched it. Dang it.
Oh God,
I just love watching movies from that time.
It's so
great. It really
great.
is just
I just love it because it, like, on the beginning, you know, like a lot of 80s movies, they had like the first minute or so, they had all like the you know, the actors' names and casting by and director and wardrobe by and this and that, and then it pops up special effects sequences by so and so, and they are hilarious. Oh my
and they're just
so
fantastic.
Great. Oh, they're fantastic.
All right, so
yes.
where can I watch?
I saw it on YouTube for free.
YouTube. Yeah, YouTube.
I saw it on, you have to pay for it on everything else, but it kind of like doubles up. Some parts are like they redeem them so they don't get that copyright infringement, but you can overlook that. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
So in 1990, Al Bielek, a survivor of the experiment, claimed that the experiments actually started in 1931. What? Okay, so they were trying to make the vessel invisible. Okay. And he said that experiments to make this SS Eldred invisible actually started much sooner. That in 1936 they had partial success, and then in 1940 they were able to do it. Okay, and the project was called Project Rainbow. Okay. And this was under Dr. Van Neumann's supervision.
Oh my God, you guys, I'm sorry. Someone just blew off a total firework and it scared the shit out of me. Did you guys hear it?
No, I didn't hear anything.
Oh, fuck me. Okay, sorry guys.
It's all right. It's all right.
So
that would make me jump too.
Oh, okay.
So brothers Al and Duncan Bielek were in the Navy. And for this experiment, they actually solicited volunteers, but they were part of this operation. Okay. It began July 1943, where they had been on the ship. They were the ones like kind of operating the hull. And the first test they did was successful. It was invisible to radar. Okay. And we'll talk about why that was so important at the time. All the men got ill on board, but not like they didn't like lose their shit. So success. Okay. So then Al said on August 12th, the SS Eldridge was tested again, but things were not the same as before when they had been tested, right? For about 60 seconds, he said that there was all of a sudden like a strange feeling that kind of like overcame everyone that, okay, wait a minute here. There's something wrong here. We need to stop this. They tried to switch off the things to make the experiment stop, right? But the switches wouldn't budge. So the brothers were like, we're going to die. We need to jump overboard.
Right.
Okay? I would never jump overboard ever, no matter what, because that sounds terrible.
I agree with you if you're out at mid-sea, but they were in the port. So you could easily just swim ashore. It was cool.
I just wouldn't do it. So they jump overboard. The ship disappears and is gone for 4 hours. It reappears and it's a hot mess. We have men fused to the ship. We have men fused to each other, right? Doctors are having to amputate to get them off the ship.
Oh my God.
And men went insane, lost their minds. Now, what's different here is Al Bielek's story says that this happened in July and August. Lunde said that he saw this happen in October. So that's a difference that we see.
Right.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Apparently, the brothers, when jumping, actually time traveled accidentally. Okay, I would love to accidentally time travel. So they went to 2137, which is insane. But they came back, and there's more to that story. But he said that he had been brainwashed, right? Lost his memory. But then when he watched this amazing movie, The Philadelphia Experiment, it triggered the memories, and it all came back to him, right? What? So people said, you know, oh, you're a scam artist, you're making this up. But there's some things that are just kind of awesome and fantastic about his story that I just love.
Oh, Jesus.
So a gentleman named Doug Rushford, he was talking about how this experiment absolutely happened. He had a friend who was then homeless because he was a part of this experiment, and he lost his mind and then maybe like let him go because he like went insane, right?
Jesus.
So he said that the men that were part of this experiment were really just fucked over, right? And it's really sad to hear that, you know. The Navy research, or the ONR, said it never happened. So I know that's surprising to everyone that anything military said, no, never happened, right?
What?
But, yeah, what? Okay, so then we hear about Ed Cameron. Everyone needs to stick together to get through this part because it gets great, okay?
Cool.
So Ed Cameron opens his eyes on a hospital bed, right? He looks over, he sees his brother Duncan unconscious. They've got, you know, like hospital type things, tubes, whatnot, all over him. He starts like trying to tug at the tubes, right? He's in terrible pain, and he realizes he's covered in burns, right?
Oh.
He said that he was an engineer in the Navy, and a doctor came over, you know, to talk to him. And he said, hey, Ed, you know, what year is it? And Ed said, 1943. And the doctor said, no, homie, it is 2137.
Oh my gosh.
And Ed's like, what? And the doctor's like, what?
Hey, I'm glad to know that we get past 2020.
Yes, great news. I really didn't think we were, but great news. So the doctor whips out a map of the U.S. No Florida. Oh,
really?
West and East Coast, they're underwater, completely underwater. No West or East Coast.
Wow.
Yes.
Global warming.
Shit happens. Okay. So Ed is at the hospital with his brother for several weeks, right? They end up doing a little bit more of time traveling, so we'll get to that. But when they ended up in 1983, they ended up face to face with some U.S. officials, and they told them, hey, don't talk about time travel, please. Could you not mention?
Keep it our little secret.
Everyone has secrets.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
Right? So there's 3 theories with the Philadelphia experiment. Theory 1, that the Philadelphia experiment accidentally figured out time travel. Okay?
I like that.
Theory 2 is that because of what they figured out with the Philadelphia experiment, it led to, you know, the Phoenix experiment, MK Ultra, the stealth program, right? All these like really undercover things. And then theory 3 was that this was a success on purpose on invisibility, right?
Mhm.
But they accidentally teleported the ship to Virginia. Whoopsie daisies. So lots of fun theories, right? So Al Bielek's story was consistent the entire time he said it. So this is why it gets really confusing. Ed Cameron was born in 1916. And Al Bielek said that he is Ed Cameron. Okay?
Huh?
What?
Yes. So Ed Cameron was born in 1916. In 1932, he was a graduate of Princeton, went to Harvard, was hanging out with Dr. John Van Neumann, the guy that worked on the Philadelphia experiment, and Project Rainbow. He took part in this 90-day training program to get ready to do the Philadelphia experiment. And he was the one on the ship that jumped, right?
Uh-huh.
So I think because it's a little confusing, let's call him Bielek, okay? Okay. So Bielek went to 2137, like we heard. Him and his brother ended up in the hospital. Doctors were like, it's 2137. Then they traveled to 2749. And they stayed in that year for 2 years, okay? They said that a computer system ran the world, that AI controlled humans, right? That humans weren't even like humans anymore. There was nothing that made us special in any way, right? Then they went back to 2137, or he went back to 2137 to be with his brother. Then both brothers time traveled to 1983, where the officials wiped the memories and then sent them back so he could be born in 1927, but his brother Duncan did not make it back.
Okay, now it's making more sense. Okay, kind of.
So he said he forgot about his brother, right? He went back in time, was born, and lived his life. So then he watched the movie The Philadelphia Experiment in 1988, and it brought back all the memories. He saw a therapist, he did hypnosis, right? And he said that this is what happened. This is what I went through, okay? So then we hear about something that Tesla discovered called time locks, right? That time locks are the thing that makes it so all of us could go to a different dimension, a different timeline, right? Things like that.
Tesla, as in the not
Nikola Tesla.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Right. So then he's saying, because we have these time locks, right? It makes it possible to time travel, but the way that it's set up, if it's not set up in a way, your body can't handle it. And that's what happened in the Philadelphia experiment, that they time traveled, or the ship time traveled accidentally. And that's what made the men fuse to the ship, because of these time locks, that it wasn't set in the right way. Right. So things got jumbled up. Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I think I've always heard that too, that if you time travel and something goes wrong, part of you will be brought back, but part of you will be back into the old time or whatever. And that's probably what happened with them, because they were like, half of their body was in one time and half of it was in the other, and it kind of melted in with the steel of the ship and shit.
Yes.
Bananas.
So then he was working on something called zero time reference generator, to keep that from happening. So there would be no more time locks, okay? But then in 1942, Tesla ended like working on that, and he was replaced by Van Neumann, right? And really, the way Tesla ended his life is really sad. He ended up dying like broke and penniless, and hid from him. And I think they said it was like 10 months after this incident happened, he died. They said he died from high cholesterol, but everyone at the hotel that he like stayed at said he was like insane about his diet and exercise. So the thought of him dying of high cholesterol didn't seem right, but nobody knows. Did he die because he had information about the experiment and he wanted to keep it from happening because men got fused to ships, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so after Tesla died, the U.S. government made his work property of the government.
That's insane.
So then the second theory is that in 1947, the Phoenix Project in Long Island, where laboratories were looking into like matter, energy, space, and time, were able to do artificial reality, right? So something is there, but it's untouchable, right? And that's what the Phoenix Project is. So they're saying that what happened with the Philadelphia experiment led to the Phoenix Project. So then they figured out that Dr. Van Neumann, said for this to be successful to space, to go through time, they had to disconnect those time locks, right? So Neumann tried to create a computer to disconnect the time locks. Balick said Van Neumann did this successfully with alien technology. What? Okay, so July 1947 was the event, right, that we all know well in Roswell, New Mexico. And we were told it was a weather balloon, right? But there was a UFO investigation that was done by Dr. Bush, who was a former employee of Dr. John Van Neumann. So they think that he got information about alien technology from Dr. Bush, the one that had done the investigation at Roswell.
Cool.
Is everyone's mind blown right now?
Yes, cool.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yay, aliens. So in 1953, the Phoenix Project succeeded and was able to make a ship invisible. What? Success.
Sure it was.
Sure it was. So then because that was successful, then, right, in 1988, we find out about this stealth bomber that had been a total secret for 10 years, but was able to be undetected by radar. So because of the Philadelphia experiment, right, we get to the Phoenix Project, and then we get to the stealth bomber, right? So they're saying that they're all connected because of this alien technology Van Neumann was able to get to make it all work, right? So this is a little tidbit that I kind of pulled up and I thought was really interesting. So there's an adorable old man, and I just love old people so much, and he's such a cute old man. He is Professor Simon Holland, and he's on YouTube, and he did a 3-parter on the Philadelphia experiment, and it really was really interesting. He shows this picture from way back in the day, and there's 3 very important people in this picture, 1943. Donald Weems, Dr. Edgerton, and Dr. Hill. All right. These are really smart guys. in this picture.
Mm.
So, Dr. Wings invented the walkie-talkie. Thanks, Wings. Love the walkie-talkie. Dr. Hill was a Nobel Prize winner, really smart. Dr. Edgerton invented fastest speed camera and set up the stealth radar company based in Area 51.
Oh.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
So these key players are in this picture, and it was taken just a few months before the Philadelphia experiment. What?
Cool.
So everyone knows that Nikola Tesla had invented a death ray, which sounds so badass. All right. So what it was the death ray was able to heat up, right, metallic objects from a long distance, right? And he invented this basically so war would never happen because nobody would want to get into war because all they'd have to use the death ray, right?
Right. Uh-huh.
The U.S. wasn't interested in his invention. Okay. So Tesla said, peace out, I'm going to the UK, and met with the Prime Minister, Neville Chamberlain. Okay. This is during wartime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So he goes to the Prime Minister. He says, hey, what's up? I got this death ray. You into it? So Chamberlain puts a royal committee together to look into this death ray. Okay. So there's two objectives. Electronics that could get projected into the air, and then enough energy to affect the body. Those were the two things that this death ray needed to be successful, right? On this committee is Dr. Hill, the guy in the picture. Okay. So the Daventry experiment was that of the death ray, but they decided not to develop the death ray. They figured out, oh, wait a minute, something's even kind of cooler here, radar. So because they were experimenting the death ray, they came and radar was born. Wow, that's kind of cool, right? So Dr. Hill thought if you raise the human core temperature 2 degrees, that you would be able to kill someone, right? If you're able to raise their core temperature in a certain way, you could kill them. Again, this is during wartime. And the US wasn't part of the war yet. The UK was like freaking out that the Germans were going to take them. Mm-hmm. They need to think of ways to handle what's going on. So he experimented and discovered you could use radio frequency to detect objects in the sky, right? So that became radar. They sent up all these radar, stations without the Germans knowing it because they had been looking into the death ray, yada, 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 right? So it's like this chain reactions happening. So now we're at radar. They have found radar. Awesome. Okay. So then they're talking about, microwave magnetron, using this like a way to kill people like a giant microwave.
Oh,
right?
Jesus.
Mm-hmm. So they're trying to think and invent ways to use radar or other ways to handle the Germans. Okay. So Dr. Hill really changed the history of World War II. He was on something called the Tizard Committee. Okay. So they had the Tesla death ray they had looked at that had become radar, which then came out with a magnetron. And this was so important for him to figure out and develop because Germany was about to take over the UK, right? Germany had this insane air force, and the UK was like, no matter kind of what we do, we're screwed. What are we going to do? So Churchill did something super smart. He took the inventions from Dr. Hill, the death rate, the radar, the magnetron, all these things that they had discovered. And they said, hey, US, we'll give you this technology for free, right? If you help us in the war. And the US said, all right, cool. We'll help you out for sure, right? So a gentleman, the professor's telling the story about a gentleman took this wooden box over the sea, and the things that were in this box were the things that the UK was giving the US, all this secret information that was so important, that what they did is they drilled holes in this wooden box. So if they were captured, it would sink. It would for sure sink. So nobody would get the information, which I thought was super interesting. Okay. So the problem that they were having is, for some reason, their boats, or their submarines or ships, would all of a sudden explode out of nowhere, and they didn't know why. The UK is like, we don't know why this is happening, right? So out of nowhere, a giant mine is dropped, right? And it's right outside the Royal Navy base that they find this mine that this German plane accidentally dropped. And they're like, what is this? What is Germany using here? It was this secret thing that the Germans had that they would put in water. It could detect a ship. Oh, there's a ship. I'm going to go to it. And that's what was making them explode, the UK ships explode. So we needed to make the UK ships, or the ships in the war, what? Invisible. To the mines.
To the mines, right?
Yes. So it had a magnetic detector that made it detect the ships, okay? So this Canadian scientist, Charles Goodeve, he figured out how the mine worked and came up with a plan to stop the mines from working, and called it degaussing, right?
Right,
Okay. So he gave the interview to the Tizard Committee, and he was sent with others to do an experiment on ships to see if they could make it invisible to the mines. Where did they do these experiments? In the Philadelphia shipyard. They covered the ships in cables, right? So it would change the electric polarity of the ship, and it wouldn't attract the mine from the Germans.
Right.
And it was successful, right? So they made it so it worked great on large ships. But what about smaller ships, right? They had to figure that out. So July and October 1943, these are the times that they were doing these experiments at the Philadelphia shipyard. They obviously didn't want the Germans to know. That's why they did it there. And people are said that this is the real Philadelphia experiment. This is what really happened, that they were trying to figure out how to save men's lives during the war by not having their ships explode by these German mines. So that's what they were doing. They said that the story of invisibility was fabricated on purpose and put out to like newspapers so that the real story of what they were doing wouldn't get out, so the Germans wouldn't know. Confusing as fuck?
Right. But
yes.
I also love the whole thing where, and I can hear the music playing because I'm an 80's kid, the whole St. Elmo's fire.
Yeah.
So what Timo here is talking about was they explained off the whole glowing green fog that overtook the ship. and they said it was St. Elmo's fire, which actually is a real life scientific thing. And what it is, it's a weather phenomenon in which luminous plasma is created by a discharge from a sharp or pointed object in a strong electric field in the atmosphere, and it glows, and that's what the green glow was.
Yes.
It was a St. Elmo's fire.
It was time travel.
Yeah. So when Timo usually plays the devil's advocate, that's all that was, along with the wires that they strung across the whole ship from bow to stern, which basically cut out the electrical magnetic fields, which made it invisible, but invisible to magnetic minds only, and the ship can still be seen by eyes, radar, and all that good stuff. So that's their explanation for explaining it off, but we all know what the true story is.
Are you ready for this fun tidbit? Are you guys ready for this?
So ready. Bring it.
Because I love it. So I'm watching Professor Simon be very scientific, right? And telling what actually happened here for the war and what they were actually working on. And he's very factual, right? Really sweet old man. And he's like, sorry guys, I debunked this, right? Not time travel, not invisibility, right? This is what they were actually doing. And they just didn't want the Germans to know, okay? So then all of a sudden I see update part 4. I'm like, what is this, Professor Simon? Give it to me, right? And he said, so I don't know what to do about this. And I'm like, what is he talking about? He's like, I have an update. So I'm going to give you guys some information. And I'm like, what's he going to say? Like, I was just like, oh my gosh. He said that he got reached out to by retired Navy officers. And they said, look, we wanted to let you know, right? Degaussing was real. This is what they were doing. Degaussing, keep the mines away from their ships. Totally real. You were correct. Except that it took place years before the Philadelphia experiment.
Bam.
So Professor Simon's like, so I thought that's what they were doing on those dates. Apparently it wasn't, that they had done it 3 years sooner. So what were they doing in 1943? Because they had already done it. They had already figured it out.
Cool.
And this old man was like,
love it.
His thing is debunking.
Right.
He debunks conspiracy theories. And he's very sweet about it. He's like, sorry, you know.
And he believed these dudes 110%. Because they could be like, hey, little old guy, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep. And also in the picture from 1943, Dr. Edgerton, he also developed radar stealth and invisibility to radar later on. So I just think it's really interesting that these guys working on these secret projects were there working on this Philadelphia experiment. What were they actually doing? So it's all fun.
That's awesome.
It's all, yay!
Yes. Yeah, that was so cool. I love
travel.
it. Yes.
Yay, great job.
It's so crazy though, the whole okay, so can we talk about the 1984 film really quick, because it was so great.
Tell us about it.
Okay, so you guys, those of you that aren't 80s kids or watched 80s movies, you're missing out, because it's just like, it's before all the CGI shit. It's all before like all the special effects comes in. So it's totally 80s. The main dude has his full on like feathered hairstyle going on.
I love it.
And the main chick has her perm.
Yes.
And so
bring back the feathered. I want men to feather. Do it. So
these are like two besties, you know, it's like in the 40s, they're dancing with their girls, they're getting ready to go off to do this experiment. And they're the ones that are down in like the control room controlling the whole experiment. So they shut it on, and then all of a sudden, like their hands start glowing and all the shit they're like, what the fuck is going on? And like they're hearing screams and stuff, exactly like how they explained the real Philadelphia experiment. And just like those two brothers, what they did, they're like, let's peace out, dudes. They both jump off the ship. But instead of falling into the sea or in this little area, they're like, woo, they're like floating through, like it's like, and you see like these like squares and designs and all this really cool shit. Yeah. And then they end up like, it's pitch dark. They don't know where the fuck they are. And all of a sudden this like light monster thing is like flying after them. And the first thing I'm yelling, it's a helicopter, it's a helicopter. But you don't really know if it's a helicopter yet, right? And then they're running and all of a sudden you know it's a helicopter and they're shooting at them. And then they reach this fence, an electrified fence, and then this whole thing, light comes and the helicopter blows up. And at this whole time that we don't know, on the other side of this fence was like a whole town. The town disappears. And then they're just kind of like walking through the desert. They find a Coke can. They're like, what's this? It says Coca-Cola. They're in the year 1984 and they're just shocked as fuck about all the stuff that's going on with them. Of course, the main dude falls in love with the girl. And I mean, it's delicious. It's like the greatest movie I ever seen. I'm so glad. I would have paid the $3.99 to watch it, but I ended up watching it for free on YouTube. But oh my God, it's just great. And and it's like, it's the 80s, so love conquers all at the end.
Conquers time travel.
He just like, yeah. And what's so funny is the dude with the feathers is from Santa Paula, California, which is like basically like 20 minutes from our hood, right up the 126.
Yeah.
And the whole like ranch that they're talking about, where they go and because his buddy like went back like hours later, he ended up being sent back to 1943 without him. And he goes to see him at this ranch, and he's like this old dude. And it's that little red schoolhouse, like when you're on the 126 and there's like that little red schoolhouse. It's filmed right there, like all in the back. There's like a ranch, and oh my God, it was just delicious. It was so delicious. I loved it. Yeah, it was so great. Yeah, so it was like a little bit of the Philadelphia experience, and then full on like 80s world, 80s love.
I love
80s,
it.
Yeah, it was great.
The 80s keep giving. You know what I mean? Really.
For sure.
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's the Philadelphia experience. It was it came out in 1980, 84, 86. I forget what year it came out in. But watch it, you guys. You young kids won't get it. You guys probably can't sit like through like the first 10 minutes of it, but it's just it's beautiful.
You just want to eat up every moment.
Oh my God, it was so great. And then just like the guy's hand is like all like, he's like, and then and then when he disappears in the bed, he's like, like, oh my God, this is the greatest acting in the whole wide world. I love it. And to us back then, we're like, oh my God, what's happening to him?
What's happening?
Yeah, and it's so lame to us now, but it's great. It's great. I love it.
It's a goodie. Check it out.
Yeah. Okay, so riddle of the week, you guys. What What did we come up with? What did you guys think? Should I
have no idea. You're making me super hard.
What was the question again?
Okay, I can't be bought, but I can be stolen with a glance. I'm worthless to one, but priceless to two. What am I?
Is it a heart?
Close. Really close.
Love.
Yes.
Yay! Yay! I just did it.
It's love. Isn't that sweet?
That's disgusting. I hate love.
You hate
All
love.
Right.
And you're the bitch that's in love.
I love love.
I know.
All right.
I y'all hang on. My phone is freezing up here. Let's come up with one for this week. Are you all liking this? Come on, let us know if you're liking this.
Well, I think they do like it. I know Reeve loves it. She always hits me up with what she thinks it is. It's so cute.
Okay, I'm gonna do a dirty one.
Okay, let me write it down. Hold on.
Give it to me, baby.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh wait, sorry.
What's a 4-letter word?
Fuck.
Fuck.
You guys.
Give me a Coke.
Okay, now I have to go with a different one because
We got it right?
No, but that would be the guess. Okay. I'm spread out before being eaten.
Spread out before being eaten.
Your tongue gets me off.
Oh my God, stop it.
People sometimes lick my nuts.
Oh my God.
What am I?
Reeve, I want you to think before you guess.
Mhm.
Okay? Don't go for that easy answer.
So one more time. I'm spread out before being eaten. Your tongue gets me off. People sometimes lick my nuts. What am I? There you go.
Possibilities. Yay, Timo!
Wow.
What a lovely
Yeah.
I hope everyone enjoyed the Down the Rabbit Hole episode. I know we're not like science-y, just people with words and the things, and it can be very confusing, but aliens and time travel are real, right? That's what we ended with? Okay,
Yep.
correct.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Anything else?
Timo has updated more YouTube videos. Almost all of our, that I didn't know this, but like as I'm going through all this, like our first 4 Down the Rabbit Hole episodes were not on YouTube. So I almost have all those up, which I'm so excited. And then I have some of our very early Handcuffs and Sage episodes that I'm getting put on there. So pretty soon everything will be on there. So, and people are liking it. The new thing is to watch podcasts on YouTube, not so much watching and listening, but watching people do their podcast as they're listening to them. Maybe when we all get back in studio, we will be able to do that, film ourselves and put that on YouTube.
That would be fun.
Yeah, it would be really fun. I mean, we have done one that I videotaped while we were doing it. It does need to be edited and all that good stuff. It might go on Patreon because it was our first one, but we'll see. Timo is a working mom and things get, life gets in the way and stuff. So I'm slowly but surely getting all that done. But, check us out because we're there.
Instagram, Facebook, Twitter.
TikTok. TikTok, it's still there, y'all. It hasn't gone away yet. So once we get back in studio, I'm making these girls do them too. We're gonna do them all. It's gonna be funsies.
Oh yeah, I think I might do a TikTok on my pool assembly and like all the bullshit that I had to do.
Excellent.
Oh my gosh,
you guys will get a text from me.
Yes,
I love it. And then I'm gonna send you guys a text and saying, okay, learn this dance because we're doing it, and we're gonna do our.
Oh my God. I'm so uncoordinated right now.
That's what's going to make it great. Just us old bitches doing them, Yeah, it's funner.
Just don't make me jump because these babies don't want to bounce right now.
Okay.
Just like you, we
have questions.
Woo!
Woo! Okay, bye, guys.
Beautiful.
Okay, bye.
Love you.
Okay, bye.
See ya.
Bye. Handcuffs and Sage is hosted by Red, Timo, and Dre in a shitty guest room in Los Angeles.
Theme music is Leave Now by We Are Wasted. Cover art done by Megan Winchester. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Show us some love on iTunes. Be a badass and do what you want. Until next time.